It's been seen as a major diplomatic and economic breakthrough. This as US President Donald Trump has announced that the United States and India have finalized a landmark trade agreement. It's going to be marked by a significant reduction in reciprocal tariffs. The deal, remember, was preceded by a high-stakes phone call between President Trump and Prime Minister Modi. And in this interaction, which was teased earlier in the day by the newly appointed US Ambassador to India, Ambassador Sergio Gor. In fact, CNBC sources have revealed to us that both sides are now likely to move forward with documentation this week. The deal is likely to be formally announced in the coming days. And speaking exclusively with CNN News 18, Ambassador Gor has said that the credit goes to President Trump and Prime Minister Modi. The two leaders have a great personal relationship, which is something that carries this deal forward. The potential between India and the United States is limitless. Remember, the tariffs, which were up to 50%, have now been brought down to 18%, and that is the big breakthrough for India at the moment. Let's also listen in to this big exclusive conversation that CNN News 18 had with the US Ambassador, Ambassador Sergio Gor. Remember, we are the only channel to have had that phone conversation with the US Ambassador. Let's listen in to the conversation he had with Zaka Jacob.
Ambassador Gor, many congratulations. India and the US now have a trade deal. Can you give us a little more details on how this was achieved and how this was arrived at?
Yes, thank you for having me on tonight. Look, all the credit goes to President Trump and Prime Minister Modi. Since I arrived in India about a month ago, I have said, and I truly mean it, that the two leaders have a great personal relationship. And that is something that carried this deal forward. The potential between India and the United States is limitless. And so I'm thrilled that India is getting this 18%, which is a massive drop from the previous number. We have incredible deals ahead. And so, as I've said, since I've arrived here, the best is yet to come.
So, Ambassador, if you could clarify for our viewers, India was paying 25% reciprocal tariffs and 25% Russian oil tariffs. The second set of Russian oil tariffs are now removed, so India just pays 18% tariffs. Is that the final rate?
That is correct. As you saw in the truth that the president wrote, part of the agreement is that all nations around the world stop buying oil from Russia in order to bring peace to the situation. And I know the Prime Minister deeply cares about bringing peace in that conflict, as does President Trump. So the number, as it gets finalized, will be that 18%.
What about on the question of the other assurances which President Trump has mentioned in his post that the Indian Prime Minister reportedly made to him? Could you walk us through that, please?
I will leave that to the trade negotiators. As you know, ambassadors don't necessarily have in their portfolio the trade deal. But overall, this is incredible news. 18%. There's a lot of demand. When the United States is open for business under President Trump, it's a new era. And frankly, from the start, we've said the president has a great relationship with the prime minister. A lot of people did not believe that. He truly does have a great relationship with the prime minister. And this is why this happened. Under President Trump's leadership, we have renegotiated deals all over the world. So this was not anything specific to one country or another. However, I will say that this trade deal is more favorable because of their relationship.
US tariffs on Indian exports now slashed down to a third in this dramatic announcement that we've had from President Trump. Down, that is, from 50% to 18%, which is to say that reciprocal tariffs down from 25 to 18. The 25% that had been added on for buying oil from Russia is now dropped altogether. Just the kind of announcement on the US tariffs that India has been waiting for and that Indian officials have been working towards over a period of several months now. But the announcement is not without some ifs and buts. We do await further details, and unsurprisingly, we have few. In Trump's post, he is a man for the broad brush, not for the fine print. As Trump put it, or posted it, India will in return take several steps. One, according to Trump, Prime Minister Modi had agreed to stop buying Russian oil, and this, he said, will help end the war, that expression coming in all caps. That is to stop buying Russian oil, not reduce, as Trump put it. He also said that India had agreed to reduce tariff and non-tariff barriers against the US to zero. That zero too, coming in all caps. Could it be as sweeping as that? And further, that India had agreed to buy $500 billion worth of US energy, technology, coal, agricultural goods too. So what all to be bought at what price? We do await a more granular picture.
All right, so here's the deal. And what is the deal all about? You're looking at a time when India is competing as a manufacturing hub with other South Asian neighbors, particularly when it comes to, say, Bangladesh, even Indonesia, Vietnam, China. All of these countries are currently competing with India in terms of textile manufacturing. So how is India now going to be placed in tariffs? Let's break it down for you. The revised India-US tariff, in fact, compared to earlier, which was in fact coming on to 50%, has now been slashed down to 18%. To give you a breakup, 25% was reciprocal tariff, plus another additional 25% was for India's purchases of Russian crude oil, which India is now going to bring down to a flat zero. And henceforth, as far as only the reciprocal tariffs, which India was left with, a 25% in total, has been brought down to this 18%, as you can see. And this is the big breakthrough. So why India-US trade deal is going to matter for our economy? Well, to begin with, it makes India's key exports to US. You're looking at competitive exports like pharma, textiles, gems to become more affordable, even though so far the United States has maintained that pharma will be exempted. But it is also going to boost Indian markets. You're also looking at a shift from Russian oil, which is going to also reduce dependency risks. Why so? Because that is exactly why tariffs had been imposed on India. How the US and Venezuela are able to meet India's need is a key challenge which remains, but it's also the lowest tariff in South Asia, which is also going to reset the diplomatic ties between India and the United States. This amid growing irritants, especially which had crept into this relationship after the United States sort of started warming up to Pakistan. Will this come with its own set of leverage for India? Let's try and weigh in. And for